Hello, the species value nature system. Excuse my appearance on English. I have to go be writing my book, but regarding presidents, they don't apologize for things they want to, especially regarding Native Americans still, especially regarding things tied to weapons. Within as we are, how we are recorded the same physical manifestation of standards ill, recorded in criminally foreign influenced with slavery's laws of a nature of organized crime, recorded simple to understand, but recorded beyond the sophistication only that realized, built as victim predator laws, how they maintain this as an effective fact-cheating nature crime method to keep it blamed on others. The real causes of what stays negative value nature progressions and acts in natures with fact treatments regarding the impositions of America's forsaken rights. Color was set up by black and white agencies that were victim predators as pseudo-sophistication nature, as modern nations only let realize seeing it in relationship to the others. All fact cheap in nature, causing negative value nature progression, exploiting roles with it, with what was internation, specifically to stay fact cheap in nature, forcing itself, self-maintained breaching nature, preventing people the quality of free speech truth. Now the president asked for fake news to be addressed, for example. But this was in conjunction with and how we have nations recorded juxtaposed with policing agreements, trade agreements tied to the trade center, tied to all areas, tied to how we share relationships to schools. And that were our recorded originally and stayed, areas maintained, motivated, and now online maintained, motivated. Branches in military recorded criminally foreign influence, fact treatment nature-wise. All as victim predators, the same way they were. For this the organized crime, fact treatment nature, slavery method, slavery. Our founders had to hide their roles with the Constitution, even after it's still having to pretend theater and fact treatment nature reactions as what was dictated by laws that were against everybody with this. This is a breaching method that knew that they can't keep people stay sick like that. You know what I'm saying? If that wasn't like that, in one generation, they would have been like, oh, well, I'm sorry. No one's going to stay sick like that. It was a offensive, multi-front correlation nature, manifest value, Trinity, has a relationship to itself. They're talking fourth dimensions and stuff. I put that in a rap once time. There's 3 dimensions, the relationship to itself. All this time, religion never got free speech. Low database stacking. Low branches pretending things like color to believe that. Like them pretending passion. We're just faking everything, faking behavior. Pretending they don't understand people. Directing strangers to because they already have been doing live progressions with their mouths through time, with conversations directed through originally and stayed. Our agencies here and there, the only ones capable of being able to treat treatment nature needed to counter the same crime methods, but with more actors tied to them, and with more acts that are being reported. Because the more sick methods, because we're not being able to have acts reported, and we're not being able to have sequence truth reported, fake news like WFSB, all the different Connecticut media, all victim predators relying upon training to a business structure that is relying upon investigators that are private and formal, preventing counter to what is originally criminally foreign influence interbranch collusion. Stacking of natures of crimes and methods of them with all areas on off campus and just writing other in databases in conjunction with that being done in cases, tricks, fake language tied to people, stacked multi evidence crimes, hiding things from presidents, having that managed, it was facilitated by the organized crime method before there was the Constitution. And then the Constitution was placed into Oz, still kept with criminally foreign influenced each science, all kinds of ways that are not debatable. But people are debating that offensively with conviction natures tied to styles and collusion needing to defend that, and that's perpetually preventing quality fact treatment nature. News is faking both sides of stories. And then while they're doing that, everyone's indifferent to that progression. They're using. That's they have motivations to acts that they can't explain without hiding from realities, from correlation. Like they're using police departments even for their roles with child abuse methods not reported originally progressed. Because it's also the way this is on off campus crimes, keeping things happening bad because of what they're using it for, to cover up live aggressions, because of what they're using it for, to keep seated positions that could be criminally influenced through fact treatment rackets where everyone's a victim predator. Through our agencies, every nation has this because they can't defend their nature as a criminal insidious since nature legalized the way they are juxtaposed with overt criminal enterprises, but all victim predators by what kept and keeps that formal archetypal criminal enterprise. Tactically internation for the fact treatment nature racket, keeping everyone else knave in relationship to criminally foreign influenced sophistication nature, victim predators, but predators. So the president says fake news. No, so listen. So the president can't. So if a president says he's sorry and he tries to have a legitimate conversation without having it reciprocal by everyone at once, we're already locked into trade agreements that are negotiated to fact treatment nature justifications of morality and of reality, with it as the Constitution abridged. Worse than that, as that facilitation to a fact treatment nature racket where we still have to hide original shared policing, juxtapose fake identity, fake pseudo-patriotism to every area and state, in collusion with international originally state. Tactically, to many extents, we start where it's not debatable, with Native American rights. See, with debates, they have to say, they say we. But that's not we, because Native Americans are still alive. And they say, we that's not rights. We want, or whatever like that. They can't protract that reason. There's a quality of fact treatment that needs to hide lies, delusions, and premises and reliance upon tactically pseudo-educated sciences, tactically obfuscated their value relationship and identity shared in relationship to the value that is the value progression, that is the nature shared in demonstration to us always. Amen and pray. Betrayal tribes. Be not that when if as legions value, rise. All names are slow. Campus Marcy's needs the name real. So that's why I have to my song. But it's so the reason if a president starts making something legitimate like that, and it's not tied to the theater here, respected, the one that they're this raised everyone, suit and tie nations, encounters to that as fake sides overall, as fake sides grouped And that is fake, size, finite, each one individually, consciously. Consciously, this preaching method did that. So it was as fluent through our nations. It was as manifest in relationship to area crime methods shared by mental health care corruption in our nations here. See how they leave out their obligations for correlation to pretend not to pretend they don't understand about the Russian spy den? All that revealed with that? How long we've been like that? Because they don't know how to think, because they've been reliant upon mental health care as their experts of how to think. And that's an excuse for not thinking, but pretending you're thinking with passions, convictions, and then justifications of that. And that perpetually needs to respect pseudo-positive, criminal insidious nature's takes on positive. Because even negative value nature, even negative value nature is temporary. Even temporary positive. Negative value nature is still temporary positive. The difference between positive, temporary, or positive, or negative temporary is what the substance of that identity of value and value relationship is to itself. Because our nature, from our perspective, is what the progression is making more of itself with the leverage of that nature of leverage, which was just perfect. It's not gonna stop being perfect. So it's either gonna cause evolution here as more clear means coming in, or it's gonna force it from here because we're not on its system now. We're not gaining our temporary positives value to the progression of positives positive. In other words, the rest of space nature, because it has no criminally legalized persuasions, it's perfect. It's to the perfect progression of the value as the perfect value progression of the identity of the nature of all space. Its identity. Allah's name is used to reveal this. Every body of value, conceptually, and simultaneously physically, and simultaneously has a physical relationship to that. Progressive value, radical correlation. This is being obfuscated. This is how they trick our agencies and us into defending opinions that can't defend ourselves at the same time, while justifying that as anticipated, just used. In other words, our peak sophistication are like little kids getting away with it because they're exploiting what was this tactically pseudo-educating all areas. It's very serious that we never had not one nation with the fact, treatment nature, truth, and integrity, and sophistication to be able to describe what used those laws and how those laws were slavery against everyone, which is very important because this is keeping opinion natures criminally foreign influence, also consciously per methods keeping people defending that. Now what's that do? It pretends to be against that because this is how it was trained. Pseudo-identity, pseudo-patriotism, victim predators, mass brainwashed per a crime method against each age of fact treatment nature, in each person individually, together, grouped, and sequentially as a progression nature, as in relationship to tactically denatured relationship to nature for this. Because the ancients knew that not only did they knew how to cause evolution, they knew they weren't trying to do this as science, where they were praying to, not praying through religions, that's different. That they're about this, about criminal reengineering of the alphabet, alpha, omega, how invisible, clear body of discernment, their relationship to polarity nature to nature of positives, and also to its positive relationship to itself as a progression nature, or as a negative value nature. But both negative and value nature and positive value nature are positive onto the complete identity of space. It's the phenomenon of how most positive is or was being created here. You know, our species has been the cause of lethal IDs, forced value nature transfer from here, closest part to the inherent portion of the identity of space, inherent nature or volume of the Trinity. That only mixes to the extent it does, it has made and makes through temporary space nature. By and with the bond to that, it's the rest of the Trinity, which is the active phase that is mixed in the progressive phase. That is not mixed, but came through it. So it is that nature anyways. So it's still mixed, all three, but only one way and only progressively. Otherwise, it forces from a leak of IDs. So we must conceive ourselves as a body of value and feel like, not as nations individually, as cells of a body that needs our immune system, as the value nature system, realizing it's ill with this market's positions, the value nature system, tactically ulterior to the real one before modern nations. Semi-nations, how'd they do that? Tactical areas of semi-modern nations, they tactically degraded human fact treatment nature through campus marxism, criminally re-engineering of the relationship of nations to internation sciences, knowing that would tactically justify them, self-justify them, defending other. And they cultivated that worse and worse. And then they did this through time. Then keep a breaching nature self-defended. Psychology was set up, internation shared. Physical delusion propagating inter-science. Areas maintained, then inter-science maintained. Then crooked branches that had slavery, had all kinds of laws and otherwise too, pretended to be against that too, as it too. This is a crime method per fact treatment nature, for the theater that was is real then, that was is real now, connected to it. Only way it would be possible is through this crazy. It's not truth. So sequence nature shifting. And then it was proven, a guy proved that he had a labor case against federal criminals who were associated with the co-defendant Robert Luskin. Before that, in part of that case, the labor guy brought the things, time-stamped them, inside the Ninth Circuit of Manhattan. My father. And he already beat them in an NLRB case years ago. These were people who had a daughter in my grade. One of them before he was realized pension thieves involved within all kinds of federal criminals and police. You know, it was police forms with crimes with kids, with evidence crimes where they used their drug dealing and stuff like that to keep mass kids directed to tactically insulated conversations, and then roles with database illusion stacking where they're defending that for ulterior reasons that they're maintaining the drug problems for, because they have doctors tied to courts against that for the fact treatment natures of having them defend that when they're the whole problem with it, with juxtaposed with internation police and overt criminal enterprises, and then undercover pretending it's just undercover they were or are together facilitated by the breaching method, juxtaposed, needing to tell the same lies, needing to hide the same lies, lie progression, cover up nature, styles. This failed our streets. It's not called culture. Culture failed too, because science has failed, because culture failed to show how that was used by only realized in collusion and forced policing agreements from tactically denatured relationship to nature, each modern nation. So we'd have to say on their market systems, force police, force database solution stacking. That's what that was. Always. Not prejudice. What it was always was database crime. It was more than that. But I'm saying, well, if you say slavery, in other words, they're also obligated. See, that's a division thing because they don't tactically pretending they have sophistication without having anyone understand about how everyone was a slave and how our founders want this understood, need this understood. Marbury versus Madison doesn't mean to fake that. Doesn't mean because you don't have the words for it, you're Oz, because you're justified with and as in other nations of agencies. They have to agree who's better in relationship to what. That was in the defense of the maintenance of that. That is the whole time measure worse than incapable of keeping truth by the rackets back here, where there is no integrity by that, where they hurt kids through generations, where they have crime methods. The whole crime method is not reported. Database solution stacking, intercampus against everyone, interbranch, intermilitary. That's why there's so many people dying. You don't even know if they killed themselves or because there are so many drug crime rolls and natures of crime rolls with doctors doing that, forging names, pretending to count men and women. Then these are the men and women tied to people speaking about for men and women, and they're directing people to pretend they had conversations with it, and illusions on Facebook, so they can make evidence as crime mistakes recorded, and then and crimes in cases, interbranch and collusion, and then pretending to be against collusion when they know they've been doing that through time. Because criminal justice, all these jobs and stuff like that, were engineered per area maintained first. There's an engineering of lie, progression, cover-up natures and styles abridged the Constitution. Our founders' course needs simple, and these is violent liars against someone who's trying to make. I've been trying to make. You know what they do? They direct people offensively, interbranch, to make statements to people to be in their location, so then they can pretend things in the background and play and invest them to many evidence crime with and as interbranch collusion with military and with other nations' police and doctors with mental health care corruption together in military too. So then they have standing nature where they're using reactions facilitated to other natures of crime, where they're doing rackets with pretending things are recorded that aren't. Pretending recording things directing things to be recorded to make it look like all there is real before then. In other words, making people up front make federal crime rolls with evidences, with police equipment, with language, and with areas and with campuses, database solution stacking, and drug crime rolls with kids, right through retired and former and regular police and like, you know, Yallah, Auzubillah, Bismillah. The religions are talking about the same thing. The beginning of the Quran says, value the unbelievers. What is the Quran's against is that we have to counter this or we're going to have the problem. All the debatable parts of the Quran, before all that, that's why it says, all you have to do is say, to understand, all you have to do is be trying to understand Allah is not got the identity of everything. Because the identity of space is bigger than it. Because just like the identity of our body is bigger than our body. To the extent, not debatable. Because it was where we aren't now, but we're still here with it. So it's greater that way. It's greater in more ways than that. It was a demonstration. But each of the sciences are tactically obfuscated to keep everyone reliant upon others thinking for them. And the Constitution abridged per nations doing this too, using what is it called? Diagnosis, recorded criminally foreign influence through them stacking, forging names, faking conversations, pretending behavior, switching sequences, and with their roles with various natures of courts and prisons, together with area crimes raised like that, needing to facilitate it like that, so they would be facilitated to roles. Also, just happening to have methods of crime to get away with that, which are all fact treatment wise. So people try to make simple act talks about real acts. They're using they're pretending they're doing how they would interrogate someone who's lying to hide their roles, recorded sequence shifting with the worst natures of crime and of criminals, and of fake both sides of stories to hide this, using courts and using prisons to stack lies. Recorded tied to proven child predators ties,